Hello there, and welcome to Political Dharma. I'm Alan Zundell, and I haven't seen you for a few weeks, so I hope you've been doing well. I have. At the end of the show, I'll tell those of you who are interested what I've been up to lately, in case you've been wondering. But I did decide to do another show, not on a regular basis, just updating on some third-party stuff, because that's been an interest of mine as well as that of many of my viewers. So I have two stories essentially. One is that Fox News did a recent public opinion poll of registered voters and found some interesting views about attitudes having to do with third parties. And my second story has to do with the California governor's race and the prospects for the Green Party candidate, which look better now that Kamala Harris has decided to step out of the race. So those are my two stories, and then an update on what I'm doing. So let's start off, first of all, with that public opinion poll by Fox News. You see the headline here in just a moment. Oops, you see me behind it too. All right. Okay, here's the headline. Fox News poll. Voters support a third political party, but not if it's Elon Musk's. So the idea of a third party in the United States, a major third party, I should say, not just a minor one. People are for it, but they don't like the idea of one sponsored by Elon Musk. He's not popular. The idea of a third party is more popular. This was published just a few days ago. A couple days ago on the 29th, which would have been Tuesday, I think. And it did include a random sampling from a national voter file. So it sounds like it was a pretty professionally done poll and not in any way skewed. In fact, they had both a Democratic firm and a Republican research firm participating in this. All right, some of the top line findings from this poll is that of all registered voters, 53% think it's a good idea to have a third major political party, and 42% think it's a bad idea. So high levels of support for the general idea of a major third party. Democrats, let's jump down to the independents there. The highest level of support is from independents. Not surprising. They're the ones who have opted not to join either of the major parties. Independents support the idea 70% to 26%. So very high level of support among independents. Second highest level of support is the Democrats, 57% yes, 37% no, so a 20-point spread. That means that Democrats in general don't like the Democratic Party, right? There's a lot of dissatisfaction within the party. Republicans, however, 52% think it's a bad idea to have a major third party, and 43% think it's a good idea. So there's more Republicans who don't like the idea of a major third party, and I would say that's because now that Donald Trump has taken over and become literally the face of the Republican Party, his supporters don't want competition. They don't want the chance of losing elections, especially if it has potential to take away from their votes, like Elon Musk's party may do. Let's go to another slide on this, having to do with Elon Musk, the man himself. In general, the registered voters who think it's a good idea to have a national third party, there's 53%, as I said previously, and a bad idea, 42%. That's roughly 11-point spread, really around 10 percentage points, because this is a plus or minus 3 margin of error. But they are not open to a third party started by Elon Musk. If that is the third party in question, 75% of the registered voters say no way, whereas 22% say, yeah, they're open to the idea. And the highest levels of support for an Elon Musk-supported party would be Republican men under 45 years age without a college degree. So the very people that are attracted to Donald Trump are also the people who are attracted to Elon Musk. Now, stepping back a minute to that high level of Democratic dissatisfaction, I don't think the Democrats would be that happy with an Elon Musk party. He's less popular among Democrats than Republicans. So let's go on to another slide. Got a couple more for you. Actually, just one more for you on this subject, and that has to do with the views about a major third party. And the highest level of support here among the questions, 70% agree that the U.S. political system is rigged against third-party candidates, and only 27% disagree. We can speculate that the 27% are not watchers of this particular show, because I've been hammering the point all last year how the system is rigged against third-party candidates, especially in the presidential race, but other races as well. So that's why people are, as it says down there, third-party candidates. This is the third question. Third-party candidates are mostly spoilers who distract from the important choice between the two major parties. 59%, almost 60%, say that third-party candidates are mostly spoilers, where only about 40% disagree with that. And that would mean that even though majority of voters think a good party, third party is a good idea, they mostly think the system is rigged against them so that they end up acting as spoilers. So that is the conflict that we all have. We'd love to see something different on offer, but given our current political system, it seems like it doesn't work out to their benefit or our benefit, but rather just screws everything up. Third parties are desperately needed because the Democratic and Republican parties are failing to address concerns of voters. 61% say yep, 38% say no, and third-party candidates tend to be less qualified than major party candidates. I found this interesting. 54% said no, they are not less qualified. Only 44% thought they were less qualified. And I would probably be in that 44% because I think by and large, third-party candidates, they can't attract the people with the most impressive resumes or skills in politicking, but they do produce some good candidates from time to time. So there we have some recent information having to do with how the public feels about having a major third party, and nothing unexpected to me and probably to you watchers of this show, that there's a lot of support for the idea of a major third party, but there is a recognition that the system is rigged, and you got to change that first. So changing the voting system would be a big part of that. And here we step into the question of the California's governor race, because here in California, where I live in San Diego, the whole state actually has a top two primary system, which is very different than the usual primary system in other states. Let's say what is driving this is that Kamala Harris, the former vice president of the United States, who ran very briefly for president last year when Joe Biden finally stepped down, she said she's not going to run for California governor. This was her announcement yesterday, and that immediately raised the prospects for the Green Party candidate, Butch Wear. And the reason for that is that in California, rather than having separate primaries for the various political parties, there's one big primary where all the candidates from all the parties have to run together in one primary, and all the voters of any political party can choose one of those candidates to vote for, no matter who. And as you see, with Harris out of the race, Harris was the front runner in all the polls about who people in California would vote for. The front runner doesn't mean majority support by any means, but she was the front runner. With her out of the race, these are just the candidates. I got a list here of candidates who have filed with the State Election Commission and also with the State Elections Board. You see, I count 9 other Democrats who are in the race, 7 Republicans, a Libertarian Party candidate, and 2 independent candidates who do not have a party preference. That makes altogether, let me try to add that up quickly, 16, 17, 18, 19 candidates, and that is not including the candidates who are running but haven't filled out all the paperwork yet because they're not yet required to, and maybe more who will jump into the race. With this many candidates in the race, that means that each voter has only one candidate they can pick, and people who lean Democratic might split their votes between all of those different Democratic candidates or even a few of them choosing independents or a Green Party candidate. And therefore, no particular Democratic candidate, unless somebody emerges as a clear frontrunner, is going to get a very high percentage of the vote. That would mean only the top two in the primary, the two who got the highest number of votes in the primary, are the only two who appear on the general election ballot. Therefore, if a third party candidate can squeak into getting enough votes to be close to the front runner or match them or go beyond them, they can be in the general election, which would be a big step for a third party. Doesn't often happen with the top two system. Not on that list is Butch Wear, who was the Green Party vice presidential candidate in 2024. And I put up this screen from his website. I wanted to check in and see what he's been up to lately because I haven't been following his campaign too closely. And I got this notice, Butch Wear for Governor 2026. The website is under maintenance, so I didn't really find out anything. But I wanted to note that he has been running for governor. He has been raising a lot of money. He has been going to a lot of events and meeting people. And he has been on a lot of podcasts doing interviews and things of that nature to make himself known. So if he is actually able to get a high level of votes and the Democratic vote is split among them and the Republican vote is split among those Republican candidates, he might get into the top two and appear on the general election ballot, a big thing for political parties. And the reason I'm focusing on this race is because the Green Party has been one of the top two minor political parties in the United States. Here we have a news item from Ballot Access News, which is a leading publication. Now it's mostly online, I think entirely online. They used to have a paper edition. They've been around for decades. They say that the Green Party registration has risen 5% in the last 9 months. This is an article from July 15th, so a couple of weeks ago. And they said, meanwhile, the number of all registered voters in those states that have party registration has remained stagnant. So the Green Party has been gaining at the expense of other party registration candidates. I don't know if that's the Democrats or independents or who it is that's migrating over there, but there are people migrating to the Green Party, and I assume that is true in California as well. It just occurred to me I could have checked that, but I didn't, so I can't tell you that specifically, but I would say Green Party has a good level of support in California, probably more so than the other states in the United States, with maybe a couple of exceptions, but a very high level of Green Party support in this particular state. So that means, as I look at the third parties that might make an impact under the current conditions, certainly this race is one to watch. Butch Wear, Green Party candidate for governor in California. Now that Kamala Harris is out of the race, he has a much better chance of getting a sufficient number of votes that he could be one of the top two who get on the general election ballot. And from there, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Even Republicans might go towards Wear as a protest against whoever the Democratic candidate ends up being. Although I think that's kind of doubtful, but you never know in today's political scene. There's a lot of Republicans who are not traditional Republicans, but just looking for a big change. And they may, by the end of next year, when voting comes to, when the general election comes in November, there may be people who have gotten sick of Mr. Trump. By then, even Republicans or Trump supporters will see how it all pans out. That's one of Trump's favorite phrases, isn't it? We'll see. We don't know. Nobody knows, but we'll see. We'll see how it works out. Anything else about that? The only thing is that there's a monkey wrench here, potential monkey wrench. And this I've mentioned before, and I will be watching this very carefully as well, is that there is a court case here in California. 3, or actually 4 now, 4 minor political parties bought the case against the state of California, objecting to the top two system because it makes it next to impossible for them to get on the general election ballot, thus restricting their voting rights or their ability to, get involved in the electoral system on equal terms. Those 4 political parties are the Peace and Freedom Party of California, which you may not have heard of because they don't have, to my knowledge, any affiliates in any other states. The Libertarian Party, which has been the largest minor party in recent decades, but in 2024 and just earlier and just after, it's gone through a lot of internal turmoil. And as I watch what's happening there, they are still experiencing that. They are trying to overcome a major internal split within the party that was stirred up by the previous leadership. And there's been talk of even suing, trying to get money that was allegedly stolen by the previous chair of the party. So the Libertarian Party has been losing support among voters. Libertarians discouraged by what's happening in the party, and some of them migrating to yet new parties that do not have the size of the former Libertarian Party. So it may even be that the Green Party will soon outpace the Libertarian Party in the number of registered voters. That's about it for the news shows. As for me, what I've been doing is my reason for getting involved in this in the first place is I had a political agenda I wanted to promote, and I thought that by covering subjects that would be of interest to people who may have similar views, I could reach some of those people and maybe start an organization to do more to promote these ideas. One of them being changing our voting methods. What I found as I went along that a lot of the people who were attracted to the channel because of the news I was covering were not so much interested in my ideas or the organizations that I was trying to form at one time or another. And the idea of working for a voting system reform has been what I've gotten. Discouraged is not the word I want. I feel like that's at a standstill as well, because most of the energy is going into ranked choice voting as a reform or into this open primary idea like we have here in California. And I don't think either of those is going to be friendly to greater competition by independent candidates or third-party candidates or minor party candidates, whatever you want to call them. Alternative party candidates is my preferred term. Sometimes I forget to use it on this show because I'm trying to talk in terms that people understand. But I don't think either ranked choice voting or open primaries are really going to be very friendly to what people expect of them. And because of that, I find it hard to keep promoting things that either are not going to work very well or things that are just getting overshadowed by these leading contenders for voting reform. There may be nefarious actors at work and trying to promote things that are not going to change things all that much. But I think in general, it's just people who haven't looked into this very deeply. So that's a long way of me saying that I stopped doing regular shows on this channel because I wasn't seeing a way forward for what I wanted to do. And I was rethinking a lot about my own political views and how I would organize if I can't find a way to impact elections. My general attitude is one of a libertarian socialist, as I've said before, meaning I think government is often a part of the problem, and I'd rather see a smaller government. I think government has two faces. One of them is a more democratic, participatory face where people can actually try to be involved in it. The other one is the face of using enforcement of laws like punishment, and often ends up being in the advantage of people who already have an advantage of in society. They gain control of the political system and use the laws to advance their own interests. So I see government in that face as being a threat and an oppressive force. I would like to advance the democratic side of the government and restrict the punishing enforcement side of it. And I think those two have to go together hand in hand. But if I can't have any impact on the electoral system or elections, or very minimal impact, my lone vote doesn't mean a heck of a lot. I thought, well, what else is it that libertarian socialists try to do? They try to get people together voluntarily to work together for the benefit of, to take care of each other, to take care of each other's needs. And in that, I'm thrown back to my spiritual roots, which have to do with how people learn to get along and how people learn to improve themselves as human beings. So I've been thinking more about my own experience in life and growing through spirituality, and started that other channel, which was originally Buddha Meets Jesus, and then became recently a Buddhist Christian with a question mark. And I may change the naming yet again because I haven't quite hit on what I'm trying to say, although I think I'm getting closer. And that is to say, I think we need a different form of Christianity because that's the predominant religion still in the United States and across the world. We need to update it in ways that have been becoming apparent for decades and decades, over 100 years. Christianity has to change because of the findings of, say, biblical scholarship and science and other things. There's a retrenchment in some Christians trying to move back towards a more fundamentalist point of view, but I think that's not the way forward. That's the way backward. It's not going to work, or it's going to be oppressive in its own right. Talky. I'm done. That's where I'm at. I've been focusing on that channel, and in particular, going into the historical Jesus with a website I have, JesusReconstructed.com, I think, not .org, but JesusReconstructed.org, .com, excuse me. And what I've been doing is reviewing new material about the historical Jesus and reviewing the Christian Gospels and the rest of the Christian scriptures, trying to figure out where I stand now on exactly who Jesus was and what his teachings were, because as I try to think about forming a more religious community, one of taking care of each other, what exactly is the language I'm going to use in talking about this with other people? And that's what I've been exploring. So if you're interested in that, take a look at my other channel and take a look at that website. And you can stick around here if you like, because occasionally I'll come back to talk about what I see happening in the political realm, which is not pretty, folks. I don't really like what I'm seeing, and I do not have high hopes for this political system fixing the problems that we're faced with without some kind of major change. We're already in the midst of major changes, some not so good, and maybe a few for the better, but overall, I don't like what I see. All right, that's plenty of talking. Sorry. Been good to speak to you again, and I hope to be back sometime in the future, before the end of the year. Bye.